Meet Ben. He's a fresher and likes to think he's the sweet and sensitive type. At a party, he meets Kathy, a second year who hasn't had sex. Neither of them knows that Ben caught chlamydia when he was at school, and so when they start having sex, they don't use protection, and Kathy gets chlamydia.
Ben and Kathy are happy for a while and spend their time taking walks by the camp and gazing at each other across the library. But just before the Christmas holidays, they have a bit of a rough patch and decide to break up. When Ben goes home, he gets drunk and meets Johan. He spends the evening telling him about how upset he is about Kathy, and later that night, they end up having sex. They're both quite drunk and forget to use a condom, so Ben gives Johan chlamydia too. Johan also carries a virus called HSV, which causes herpes. Neither of them realise it, but Ben now has herpes too.
After the holidays, Kathy and Ben realise they made a terrible mistake and get back together. They have a romantic night of passion, but in the heat of the moment, they forget to practice safe sex. And Kathy now gets herpes too.
Meanwhile, Ollie and Heather have been seeing each other for a while. Heather was attracted to Ollie when she heard his gap year stories and realised how similar their time spent travelling was. One difference is that Ollie had sex a few times when he was abroad, but hadn't bothered to use condoms. He doesn't know it yet, but one of his partners was HIV positive and has given him the virus.
Ollie and Heather wait about 6 months before having sex, and when they do, they don't bother to use a condom. Heather is on the pill, and it's been 8 months since Ollie had unprotected sex. If he'd have caught something, there'd be symptoms by now, wouldn't there? Ollie and Heather continue to have sex, and Heather becomes infected with HIV. A month later, they break up and go about their lives, unaware of their HIV status.
George and Greg have been eyeing each other up across the college bar for a few minutes, but they've been too shy to speak. When they finally talk, they get on quite well and see each other for a while. They don't have penetrative sex and only mess around a little, as George tells his friends. So they don't think about using condoms. However, George is carrying scabies, and as this can be transferred with skin-to-skin contact, Greg gets scabies.
Things fizzle out when Greg gets bored. George is very upset and runs off to a club where he meets James, who has hepatitis B. Later that night, they have unprotected sex. And as George isn't vaccinated against hepatitis B, he is infected. George also gives James scabies.
Meanwhile, Greg is looking around for something else to do, so he tries Heather. Greg always carries condoms, so they make sure they use one when they have sex. This means that Greg does not get HIV. However, Heather still catches Greg's scabies.
By this time, exams are looming, and two friends, Regita and Zach, decide to relieve some of the stress by having sex. Zach is too embarrassed to tell Regita that he has gonorrhea, and Regita doesn't seem bothered about using a condom, so Zach gives Regita gonorrhea.
The exams pass and the May balls start. Regita is at 1 when she bumps into Greg, who's still single, and they get talking. They spend a romantic summer week punting and lying around in the sun. And after an evening out, they have sex for the first time. But because they're so caught up in their newfound love, they don't bother using protection and both give each other STIs. Regita gets scabies and Greg gets gonorrhea.
Regita and Greg have a great time, but Greg's short attention span gets the better of him, and he decides to go on the pub when Regita is busy one night. He meets Kathy, who split up with Ben when he told her about having sex with Johan. Greg decides that she's just what he needs and spends all night getting to know her. He invites her back to his room, and on the way back they discuss whether they'll use a condom. they decide that because Kathy has only had sex with one person, and because Greg used to almost always use condoms, they don't need to. They don't realise that when they have sex, Kathy will get scabies and gonorrhea, and Greg will get chlamydia and herpes. The end.
P.S. Asmita feels left out, so she has crabs. George is going to rub water-based lube onto his condom quite vigorously. And Harriet's going to do the same with oil-based Vaseline, and we'll just see which one pops first, basically. So it's just trying to illustrate the fact that hopefully the Vaseline will weaken the condom. Now, whilst they're doing that, we just also need to mention that...
I actually can't open this. Where are the whippy things on them? Seriously?
You're having a very celibate year, George.
I am now.
Rub really hard. I haven't got much more to say, so...
Riff.
You're allowed to cheer them on.
So also, another thing to mention about condoms is you need to ensure they're in date. If they go out of date, again, the rubber can degrade, again, leading to increased risk of pregnancy. Round of applause for Harriet, please.